All right, the Sunday slate, Casey. First game, Cincinnati versus Buffalo. The line it opened at minus. Buffalo opened at -4. They're currently at -5.5. Cincinnati is +196 on the money line. Buffalo is -240, and the over under opened at 48 and is currently at 49. So, what are you thinking on this game personally? Because this is the one game where I really don't know how to feel one way or the other. Like, I'm totally split right down the middle.
Yeah, there's an emotional appeal to Buffalo right now, and I think you'll probably be seeing that, especially with late money on the Bills.
Mm-hmm.
Um, with everything that went on in the last matchup with these two teams, with the confusing nature of canceling a game and how that impacts seeding, um, I think a lot of people are looking at Buffalo being at home playing a massive role. But what I'll say is there's no great weather impacts. Last I looked, it was going to be 12-mile-an-hour winds, which is standard. It was going to be 30, 40 degrees, no snow. Those things, even though they're both northern teams and probably comfortable with those conditions, I think this is going to be an even playing field. And of course, Bills Mafia will be hectic.
Mm-hmm.
But if I had to think of a team that could go into Buffalo in those conditions and win, it's probably the Bengals. I don't see Joe Burrow and that team having as many issues. What the massive concern is going to be is the offensive line injuries. And I will tell you, Cade, you'd be happy to know that. And the news source that I like to use is going to be Roto World. I think everybody uses that for player news.
Yeah.
They actually used the phrase decimated by injuries
Oh,
for the
they used
Bengals.
it incorrectly.
Yes,
Incorrectly
just like
used
you.
decimated.
You were so worried about it last time. What they did, they talked about the Bengals being decimated by injuries on the offensive line, and I do think that that's important. However, Buffalo still doesn't have Von Miller back. A lot of guys like that who are going to be very important to their success, and so I just don't think that the offensive line injuries are something that can't be overcome in this case.
So
Uh,
offensive line
Now, if we see a lot
injuries.
of false starts happening because of the noise and these guys that don't regularly play, and we see a lot of offensive line holdings issues like that, sure, you're going to see the Bills win this pretty easily.
Wait, so you're talking about offensive line injuries for the Bills?
For the Bengals.
Okay, yeah, that's what I thought for the Bengals because Lyle Collins, Alex Kappa, Jonah Williams, Ben Brown, and Clark Harris all out. The
Yeah.
three big ones are Alex Kappa, Lyle Collins, and Jonah Williams. Like those are pretty
Yeah.
huge injuries. Um, and also on the defensive side, Chidobe Awuzie is going to be out. Trey Flowers, he's going to be out. Drew Sample is going to be out at tight end. So Cincinnati is dealing with some pretty significant injury issues. Now on Buffalo's side, golly, I'm so glad I caught myself. I was like, Damar Hamlin is going to be out. Okay, I was going to say that seriously, but I'm glad I caught myself. So instead, I could say it in an inappropriately joking way. Micah Hyde is going to be well. Actually, his status is IR return, so he might play. I don't know. That would be a big. Micah Hyde is phenomenal, so that would be a big thing. But
That would be an interesting
yeah,
return. I didn't think that was going to happen, though.
if him and Jordan Poyer play, that's huge because that the back end of that defense has been so good when they have both of those guys on the field. I mean, that would be enormous to limiting Cincinnati's ability to push the ball down the field with Jamar Chase and T. Higgins and those boys.
We'll say the big thing about both matchups on Sunday is that Vegas believes, the public believes, and we generally believe these two games should be more competitive than the other two. Even though I could
Yes.
see the Dogs winning the other two games and even
Mm-hmm.
think the Giants will, these games will be pretty close, and especially this Bengals Bills game. There's going to be a lot of emotion going on here. I think the Bengals are a little slighted that they didn't have a chance to play for the right to host this game.
So do
Um,
I.
people, and I'm not saying one way or the other. Just the reality of it is, had the game continued, had they played it, had the Bengals won, it would be in Cincinnati, which I do think is a big deal for the city of Cincinnati, but is also a big deal for this team. So you got a team with a chip on their shoulder. You got a team with high emotion after the Damar Hamlin injury, and so I'm excited to watch this game. I haven't quite figured out if there's a play here Uh, should be a lot of fun to watch.
Yeah, I do kind
Buffalo
of like.
wins if they can get the offensive line to make mistakes in this game for Cincinnati. I'm not sure that that will happen, but that's the way Buffalo wins a game. And a lot of people might think, no, Buffalo wins because of Josh Allen. No, Josh Allen is not greater than Joe Burrow. No, Stephon Diggs and Gabe Davis are not greater than Jamar Chase and T. Higgins. We could go through every position, and I'm going to tell you that it's very close
Yeah,
all across the board.
yeah,
Although big game day, Gabe is a big deal. I'm starting to believe the hype that Gabe shows up in big games. This is a big game. I
yeah,
could see if anything, I'll tell you that he should be in your fantasy football lineups if you got him.
yeah. I will say that if I had any inclination to make a bet on this game, like outside the system and just based on my own intuition, the one bet that I would make would be the over in this game, because 49 just seems like a pretty low total for these two teams that are both have very high powered offenses. But that is a very weak, justification to make a bet.
Yeah.
And
The range I've got is 46 to 48.
really,
Which
wow,
isn't, I mean, it's almost always, my range is almost always going to come in a hair under because of the way it's calculated.
yeah,
So it's definitely not enough to take an under. And then I agree with you. Then you put in your intuition and you look at the game. Both of them, what I will say is the fact that they didn't finish the game, they can stick to the same plan in
yeah.
general. Like if they had schemed up for this team a certain way offensively, they didn't show their hand in the last game. They might add some wrinkles that weren't
Mhm.
already in the game plan, which really makes this kind of exciting to see how it's going to play out. Um,
I
but
wonder
that game
how
had started off with
much.
a high pace.
I wonder how much the opening line or the opening over under a 48 was affected by the notion that the weather could be bad. Because if you look at the Buffalo weather report, it is snow every single day except Saturday. So when they made this opening over under a 48, like where they think like maybe it'll be really bad weather, so we're gonna put the over. I mean, I'm just kind of speculating, kind of spitballing here, but if that affect, like maybe that's why the line is a little bit lower, is because it opened at 48 and it's only moved to 49. But now
What
that
time is this game Sunday?
it is
Three local.
at 2 p.m. Central, so
Actually, it is 80% to rain. It's going to be a mix. It's snow showers, 80%. I did not realize
oh,
that.
this game's on
Now it slows
Sunday.
down during the
Oh,
game. It does slow down during the game.
yeah, this game's on Sunday. I think me and you were both still in Saturday mode.
Yeah,
sorry, sorry about
it's
that, everybody. Yeah, this game is on Sunday, so it will be bad weather. So now
it
throw out
does look
everything that
like
we
if it
just
does
said.
start snowing, it's going to increase through the game too, which will cause. Wow, I'm
Yeah,
excited to watch this football game.
it's gonna
I am.
be it's gonna
I'm
be
getting hyped
something.
up now.
If I had to make my game pick, just my flat out, because I was 5-1 last week, you were 6-0, so we
Sorry.
had we had really good game picks. Uh, if I had to make my game pick, I would pick Buffalo. And I'm not super duper confident in it, but I do think that the emotional resonance of Damar Hamlin getting hurt or having, getting sick pretty much, recovering, uh, maybe, I don't know, like could he make an appearance like on the sideline or so? I don't know, maybe, but I think that building is going to be going absolutely insane. I don't think you could ask for a better home field advantage than Buffalo is going to have on Sunday. Um, so I think that will kind of carry them through. And if I had I also think they're the better team. At least when Josh Allen is the Josh Allen that we know and love, and he doesn't decide to, throw 2 interceptions or whatever.
Yeah, see, I disagree. I don't know, man. The Bengals defense is better than the Dolphins defense, and the Dolphins defense, even though it was a 30-point game, the Dolphins defense is the reason they were in that. Um,
Yeah.
Buffalo had twice as many offensive yards, but not twice as many offensive points. It's because the Dolphins were able to force some key turnovers
Mm-hmm.
in key situations. And I think the Bengals are as opportune or more opportune. Um, I will say we talked about it in the last video. The turnover adjustment in points, I don't think is skewed incorrectly in this case, like I thought in the Jags game because of the terrible first half performance by Trevor Lawrence. In this game, I am adding 3 points or 2.75 points to the Bengals and taking 2.75 away from the Bills based on turnovers. So I'm full conviction that the Bengals, I say full conviction. The projection says 23-22 Bengals. I'm going to roll with the Bengals to win the game. If we're making game picks and you're taking the Bills, and I'm not doing it just to be on the opposite side. We were very much on the same side last week. My game pick so far would be the Bengals, the Giants, the Chiefs. And those are the three we've already reviewed. There's another video for yesterday's games or for Saturday's games.
So mine would be Chiefs, Eagles, Bills. So we are on the opposite end on 2 games now.
2 games so far. The next game, we might be on the same side. The next game is going to be a hard one to pick. Are we good to go ahead and transition over to that?
But before we do, what do you think about plus 196 for Cincinnati on the money line?
Yeah, I like it a lot.
Even though I'm picking Buffalo, I do think that wouldn't be a terrible bet. I really don't. I think you're getting enough juice on that to take the plunge and to go with Cincinnati.
I think you could do well to put a single unit on all 4 underdogs. You'll profit this weekend because you only have to win 2.
We will talk about the all dogs prop in our prop videos. So that
I was there. I haven't even looked at that yet. I'm excited about that. I don't think all of them win, but I think all have a shot.
Yeah,
this is the point in the season where like home team fans think that we're simply a better team, which we even talked about before the show. We said it about the Mavs beating the Hawks the other night in NBA. Well, it's because the Mavs are better. Well, the Mavs lost the game. The better team loses the game all the time. And it's about, can the other team close enough? Do they have the tools and the talent? I genuinely could see 4-0. I don't think it'll happen. There's just no way, right? It's too long of odds, but I could see it happening.
Yeah, totally. Okay, now we can move on to the Cowboys and the 49ers. And I will just tell you straight up, I'm all over the Cowboys in this one. I think the Cowboys come in and they roll. The 49ers are -4 on the spread. They are -190 on the money line. Dallas is +160. But the Football Power Index gives the Dallas Cowboys a 53.2 chance to win this game despite them being on the road and the betting underdog, 4-point underdogs on the road. Which generally you give 3 points to the home team anyway, so really they're like a 1-point underdog on a neutral site.
Here's where I'm having an issue. Okay. You've heard me talk about this calculator a lot. The calculator has this as in both instances, 27-24 win for the 49ers or a 26-22 win for the 49ers. So what I'm telling you is there will be no play for me on the spread. There will be probably no play for me on anything except a prop, which I'm excited to give you in the next video. I've already decided in my head is going to be the play. But what I will tell you is eye test, I think the Cowboys win. I just like watching these games unfold. And I thought this, everybody, weeks and weeks ago, Dolphins 49ers, Brock Purdy's first game. I didn't care that Brock Purdy was playing. It was an eye test about the 49ers defense being unbeatable and the Dolphins defense being beatable. I was all over the spread in that game. It's like -8. It was wild. It was stupid to be doing that with a rookie QB, Mr. Irrelevant.
Yeah.
But in this game, I still believe the 49ers have what it takes to win. I'm not saying it's going to be an easy thing, but geez, man. The Cowboys have looked good.
Here's my thing. Dak Prescott rebuilt a lot of trust with me in that Buccaneers game. He played very well. That defense also,
I was say for me it wasn't even Dak. I think Dak did what he should have. Dak went out and did his job.
Right.
He did to me the minimum. He didn't win the game. The defense won that game.
Yeah.
If they do that to Brock Purdy, game over.
And if they can do that to Tom Brady, I think they can do that to Brock Purdy. And here's the thing. The Dallas defense is so reliant on Micah Parsons. There are a lot of drawbacks to that, but one of the great things is whenever you're going up against a rookie quarterback, Micah Parsons screaming off the edge every single time is going to be a problem for the 49ers all game. And it's not like their offensive line is just tremendous at pass blocking. They've always kind of been more of a run blocking offensive line. So they're going to really struggle to buy time for Brock Purdy, in my opinion. And if they can't push the ball down the field with him, that's going to affect their run game. It's going to affect everything. I think that we could see a ton of check downs to like Christian McCaffrey, that type of thing. And that can work. Christian McCaffrey is great. But I think that if the Dallas Cowboys are able to kind of pigeonhole you into that kind of game plan, you're starting the game already down, like behind the starting line, you know? So that's why I just think, I don't know. I think the Dallas Cowboys, I'd take them on the money line. I'd take them +4. Intuitively, I'm not telling you to make those bets, but I'm just saying that is my feeling on this game. And one thing I did want to ask you about, since your projections have this game coming in at, I believe, 51-48. Am I correct on the total?
Yeah, the over would be for me.
Yeah. Yeah.
So what's absolutely wild to me is not just how great the defenses are for both of these teams when they show up, but it's also how good the offenses have been to counteract that. And that's it's going to be an interesting thing to watch. This could very well be a very low scoring game because the defenses play lights out.
Yeah.
But it could also be a very high scoring game because the defenses play lights out, because there's a direct correlation to games with many turnovers scoring many points. Right. So if we see this game, even though I think the Bengals Bills produce more turnovers overall, this game could be right up there. I see this being a weird kind of a thing where it's like, oh, the defenses were great, and it was still 30-24. It was still 35-28. Like something dumb happens because you might have a strip sack touchdown. You might have a couple of pick sixes, or special teams for both these teams are pretty solid. Like I think this is one of those weird games that is not simply like one quarterback better than the other, or one pass rush better than the other. These are whole team units. This is probably, to me, this is definitely more exciting than the other NFC game. And if the Eagles advance, if the Eagles can get past New York and the Eagles look like the Eagles looked early in the season, I'm excited to watch either of these teams play Philadelphia next week.
Me too. Me too. Especially the Cowboys, if the Cowboys win. Like, to me, that would be the ultimate matchup, would be Eagles-Cowboys. I would love that matchup. Yeah,
gosh, it'd be beautiful.
Yeah.
Well, and the Cowboys have already gotten some really great, like, he got to overcome Tampa. The narrative is so much for the Cowboy. Like, this is finally the franchise's chance to return to their glory. Yeah. He's gotten through the Tom Brady Tampa Bay kryptonite. He's now playing a historic matchup. Dallas, San Francisco goes all the way back into the 80s as being one of the greatest matchups to watch in these big moments.
So many playoff matchups, yeah.
Regardless, whatever the word is, no matter what happens here, if Dallas wins, they're playing a division foe for the NFC Championship. And coming into the year, this was the weakest division in everyone's eyes. This division was
the
trash.
The NFC least.
Terrible.
That's what it was called.
And now they're the NFC Championship game. Yeah. It's so exciting to watch. The narrative is there for Dallas to finally overcome all their struggles.
I don't know about you, but one of the reasons I want Dallas to win is it is going to be so magical to watch Skip Bayless and Shannon Sharp duke it out on Undisputed after. I mean, to me, I
can't even.
I'm not like a big fan of that show. I never watch it or anything unless there is something that I know that Skip Bayless would like really just like dig in on, you know. And the Dallas Cowboys making the NFC Championship game and having to play a division opponent, to me, that would just be a week of magical content from them.
Yeah. I will say a big thing for me is I think this is an opportunity, and I'm a Dak Prescott fan. I never understood all the hate he gets from the Dallas face. Oh, we got to get rid of Dak. He's terrible. He can't do it. And I'm like, nah. I think you're not going to trade for Patrick Mahomes. You're not going to get him.
It's the contract. I think it's the fact that they're paying him so much money to be one of the best quarterbacks in the NFL, and he's not. He's just not one of the like top 5 quarterbacks in the NFL. He's more like a top 12 quarterback in the NFL.
Sure. I think his season stats this year were not attractive, but the thing is, and you mentioned it last week, is if you can get him to play like it's hard, right? It's like we look at a guy and what he's done over the recent history, but when we look at a guy who at his very best, what he can do, Dak Prescott at his very best can be one of the very best.
Yeah.
And so what you need is for that to occur now in the playoffs. And if it does, and if they can go on and win the Super Bowl, they'll forget everything.
Of
These
course.
Dallas fans will forget everything. And
Of
I like
course.
Dak, right? He's a Mississippi State grad. I really am big on that. Um, I just I don't know what I can genuinely pick because all the metrics point to the 49ers still pulling this one out. I'd love to see Dallas win. My eye test from last week says Dallas is going to take the win.
Yeah.
Um, I
I
think when you look at coaching matchups, head coach wise,
Oh no, head
I,
coach wise, the 49ers take it in a landslide.
we'll see. And is he just
Kyle
overhyped? Is
Shanahan.
my question.
No,
Is Shanahan
Kyle.
overhyped? But
No.
I am not a McCarthy truther. But what the point I was going to make is the other two teams in the NFC have better head coaches to me. I'm more of a fan of the prospects of Daboll's future, and I think Shanahan and McCarthy are hanging on. Like we all look at them and what they've done in the past, but I think when we make projections about what coaches are worth, it's not about what they did 4 years ago. It's about what they can do going forward. I think the other matchup has the two better head coaches. I'm a big fan of both of these defensive coordinators in this matchup. Dan
I
Quinn has done it with Seattle before as a defensive coordinator, and I can see him turning it on in the
Yeah.
playoffs a little bit better than a potentially distracted. And I don't think he's distracted D'Amico Ryans. I think he's there for the job. He's going to do what he's supposed to do, but he's probably a head coach next year. And whether he wants to say it publicly or not, I know that has to weigh on some of the things that are going on.
Okay, here's what I'll say.
I have more faith in Dan Quinn.
Here's what I'll say. Like I said, I like the Cowboys in this matchup, but as far as coaching goes, I think Kyle Shanahan is the best coach in the NFL, and like you could make an argument for a couple other guys, but honestly, it's not that close. And I think Mike McCarthy as a head coach is honestly one of the worst. Like he's not a good head coach in my opinion. However, I do agree with you that Dan Quinn is an unbelievable defensive coordinator. His ability to adjust and to not get pigeonholed in to this cover 3 defense that he ran in Seattle and to make these adjustments to make guys like Micah Parsons and Trayvon Diggs play better has been excellent. So I'd really like the defensive coordinator for Dallas, Dan Quinn. But I would agree with Sirianni and Daboll being better than McCarthy. Especially Daboll. I think Brian Daboll is unbelievable. I think he's probably number 2 or number 3 for me in my head coach power rankings. But Shanahan, the thing about Shanahan is his offensive scheme and his ability to listen to good defensive coordinators is, to me, it's just unparalleled. I mean, the entire NFL is adopting schemes based off what Kyle Shanahan has done, you know?
Yeah. I will say the last thing I'll have to say about this, and I mentioned it last week, that the 49ers just have so many different weapons that, like, if you shut down one, like, cut off this one head of the snake, 2 more shall come forth. Like their offense is like that. But I think the Cowboys are the only one that's also kind of like that.
Yeah.
Like with New York, if you can limit Daniel Jones a little bit and you shut down Saquon, it's like, well, how are you gonna fix this problem? Like a receiver isn't gonna go out and do the magic like it seems like San Francisco can do. You can do all kinds of creative stuff with both their top wide receivers. Get the ball in George Kittle's hands, he'll end a defender's life. All of these things, I think the Dallas Cowboys are the closest offensively to that. That's not to say that just simply means the 49ers will beat the other two teams if they face them. It's going to be great football to watch. This is going to be beautiful television on Sunday evening. Is this the evening game?
Yes, it is.
So
5:30.
This is going to be a lot of fun to watch. Yeah.
One thing I am curious about, I haven't really looked into this a lot this year, but whenever the Dallas Cowboys lose, if they lose at any point, this could be Ezekiel Elliott's last game as a Dallas Cowboy.
Could be.
Because he still has some years left on his contract, but his contract is about to reach the point where they can release him and it not have a ton of dead money on their salary cap. So honestly, I'm actually pretty confident that whenever they lose, it'll be his last game. I think they'll let him go because he's owed a lot of money if they keep him.
The running back market might even be pretty attractive if you don't want to commit to Pollard long term too.
Yeah.
This season,
or the draft. Too.
Yeah, the draft is pretty solid, but I there's options out there as well. I'll say about the Zeke thing,
There
and I like Zeke. He
always
seems.
are.
I love that he doesn't have as much controversy as some of these high profile guys tend to get.
I'll make a
Even though he
bold
has had issues.
I'll make a bold statement. If the Dallas Cowboys would have let Zeke walk instead of paying him that enormous contract, they would have already won a Super Bowl by now. That I think that contract has hamstrung that organization like dramatically. I always think it's a pretty bad idea to pay a running back that much money unless they do something really unique the way that Christian McCaffrey does. And even then, I mean, he's been hurt like all the time, so yeah, it's hard to say that even he's worth it, you know. But yeah, anyways, that's all I'll say about that. But yeah, I think okay, go ahead.
I got one more thing to add to this. This kind of came to fruition in the Giants Vikings game, so I'll just bring it up again. I'm looking at the schedules for both of these teams. The Cowboys have played 8 games against playoff teams in the regular season, now 9.
Mm-hmm.
The 49ers have played 4, now 5, if you count week 1 of the postseason.
Wow.
And I think when you look at being battle tested again, who had the easiest path to get to where they're at? And they're still pretty, like, they look even. They look even, but Dallas has played stiffer competition. I kind of think that actually makes me even lean a little bit more to the eye test that says maybe these numbers are skewed just a hair because of the competition.
Yeah, and San Francisco
down the stretch, as good as they looked, they got New Orleans on a weird week for New Orleans, Miami on a weird week for them, and then Tampa when they hadn't quite started to figure it back out. Seattle has proven to be like mid.
Seattle twice,
Washington,
right?
Vegas, and Arizona. I'm just talking about down the stretch here since week 12.
Yeah.
They ended the season against Washington, Vegas, and Arizona, which turned out to be like Washington was a fringe playoff team, but were they really a fraud all along?
Mm-hmm.
Vegas, what are they doing? And that game was close.
Yeah.
And then the Arizona game was just kind of a ho-hum, no big deal. I don't know. I'm starting to really think that maybe, I don't know, maybe there's more to not believe about the 49ers in this situation. You're in the final 4, essentially, of your conference.
Yeah. And it's so interesting.
To me, feels like the edge.
It's so interesting to look back because everyone was convinced that it was going to be another year of the NFC least and the NFC best. Like, you know, the West was going to be dominant and the East was going to be terrible. And it ended up being the exact opposite. The NFC West was, I mean, the NFC South was really the worst division, but the West was not much better. The Rams were terrible. The Cardinals were terrible. The Seahawks they made the playoffs, but they were kind of fraudy.
The NFC South is the worst division with arguably the most talent I've ever seen outside of the quarterback position.
Yeah.
All 4 of those teams, if they had like a guy at quarterback that was like a Dak or like a Derek, I mean, maybe a Derek Carr, I don't know. He fell apart this year, it seemed like. But like that middle range QB in everybody's eyes, I feel like all 4 of those teams would have been way more competitive.
Yeah. Well, I mean, any team would be
Tom
way
Brady's
more competitive.
Good.
Yeah. It's just that division was a mess this year. But anyways, I think that's about it for these 2 matchups, don't you?
Yeah, absolutely. Look, don't forget, follow me, Twitter, Edgefinder07. Follow Beanie Antics as well. I'll be posting picks there this week, and then be sure to subscribe here on YouTube and check out the other videos. We've got a prop video coming up later on.
Yeah, all that stuff he said. All right, see ya.